Therefore, everyone who confesses me before men, I will also confess him before my Father who is in heaven. But whoever denies me before men, I will also deny him before my Father who is in heaven. Do not think that I came to bring peace on the earth. I did not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I came to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law. And a man's enemies will be the members of his household. He who loves his father or mother more than me is not worthy of me. This passage pierces the very heart of a Christian. It demands that you scour your soul to hunt and probe for any sliver of you that might place your father or your mother or your brother or your child over your God. It is a direct order to the mature Christian who knows that the frivolous things of the earth have no significance to our spiritual state. And instead, the passage leaps to what many Christians hold most dear to themselves: family. In our circles, we rightly rejoice in the family. We treat it with the reverence and seriousness it deserves by shaping the men to be leaders that imitate Christ. And we encourage the women to have gentle and quiet spirits, to make their home a sanctuary. Motherhood specifically is praised to be a beautiful, miraculous, and lovely vocation. Yet even the beauty of a family can be skewed by a fallen mind. It is easy to break the first commandment and consider your family to be more holy than God himself. The passage in Matthew 10 cautions against this by forcing the Christian to come to the end of himself. And it questions just how much he loves his family. Does he love his family more than he loves Christ? Would she be willing to do the most hard thing imaginable? It is hard to accept a reality in which you would be willing to sacrifice the people you have come to love the most in the world if that is what God is commanding you to do. Perpetua was a daughter. She was a sister. She was a mother. She was the mother of an infant son. And she was asked a question that her answer to would determine her fate forever. If she answered truthfully, that would mean condemning herself to a short but brutal time in the Roman prisons. And following that, death by the beasts, made all the more undesirable because it would be in front of thousands of people thirsting for her blood. If she chose to lie, she knew that she would be allowed to go back to her comfortable upper-class life as a wealthy Roman citizen. She could go back to her family. But what was the question? As many of you know, it was simple and it was pointed. Are you a Christian? And Perpetua chose her fate. Despite pleas from her father, despite the fact that her son was but a couple months old, despite the fear of beasts, despite the fear of the sword, and despite the dread of what the Roman soldiers might do to her, she answered confidently, I am a Christian. 4 condemning words. Words that didn't just imply that Perpetua was willing to die. They proved that she was willing to leave behind her family, the most precious treasures in her life, the things closest to her heart, all for Christ. We all have relationships that we hold in this esteem. And I've been convicted many times in the preparation of this speech by asking myself one question. If Perpetua's voice rang loud and clear upon the threat of death, Why does mine sometimes stutter upon the threat of mockery? I think the answer is that Perpetua had a simple but a fierce faith. The beauty of Perpetua's story is in its simplicity. The Passion of Perpetua, our only primary source with her own words, is 11 pages long. Now, we have more than 100 separate titles of Bishop Augustine of Hippo. His writings have been studied and analyzed and applied to the point that they are the foundation of theology as we understand it today. C.S. Lewis wrote more than 30 books. His imaginative nature and mastery of the English language makes him a staple for Christian readers. Anne Dutton wrote about 50 volumes. They varied from poetry, hymns, letters, and even to an autobiography. Her womanly candor was unmatched in Reformed circles. Elizabeth Elliot wrote about 100 books. She was kind and she was blunt. And we women praise God for that. I couldn't keep count of how many books Jonathan Edwards wrote, but even his preaching alone was enough to put him in posterity in the Protestant world. But Perpetua had 11 pages. For Perpetua, 11 pages was enough for us to understand her passion, confidence, and simplistic faith. Now, I want you to imagine having the strength of character and heart in which you could look your father in the eye and witness the heartbreak in his eyes as you feel it in your own soul as he pleads with you, reminding you of all the years your son has yet to live. That if you stand by your words, you won't be able to enjoy any of them. You won't even be able to see him take his first steps. You won't be able to hear his first words. You won't even be able to share the gospel with him. You are practically leaving your motherhood behind. And imagine answering the man who raised you by saying that you can be nothing other than what you are, a Christian. How could you do it? Could you do it? Perpetua did. And she did it joyfully to the glory of God, never complaining, never regretting, never forsaking the name of the Lord. So take heart in this tale of Perpetua's. And let us be the sort of Christians that could walk into the arena with our shoulders back and our heads held high, even as our hearts are filled with terror. And let us be the sort of Christians that would fight the beasts valiantly. And let us, like Perpetua, be the sort of Christians that could have so much faith in God that we would guide the faltering soldier's sword into our own throat. Let us be the sort of Christians that could do this all joyfully and with full trust in our God who is forever faithful. Now, how is it that she has been remembered alongside the best Christian poets, storytellers, authors, and rhetoricians? 11 pages was all we needed from her. It was a powerful story because Perpetua did have an understanding of the simplicity of God's salvation and what it means to be willing to sacrifice all you hold dear to yourself, even if that means leaving behind your father, mother, siblings, infant son, for the sake of the kingdom.